In the village of Kaba, Ekene is a man known for his overflowing compassion, but he possesses a dangerous secret. He finds a wounded golden serpent and, against the warnings of the village elders, begins to feed it. As the man prospers, so does the snake, growing to a monstrous size until it demands a sacrifice Ekene is not prepared to give. This is a story of how an unbridled appetite for luck can blind a man to the venom at his table. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more inspiring stories.
A man who feeds a predator is not a master. He is merely a servant who hasn't been eaten yet.
Those were the words of the village oracle, Maobi, but Ekene was too blinded by his own ambition to listen. In the coastal village of Kaba, where the palm trees whispered to the Atlantic and the sand was as white as crushed bone, Ekene was a struggling fisherman. While others brought in nets heavy with tilapia and snapper, Ekene often returned with nothing but salt-stung eyes and a hollow belly. He was a good man, but a desperate one. And desperation is a scent that the spirits of the underworld can smell from miles away. One evening, while walking along the forbidden silver sands, a stretch of beach where no sane villager set foot after twilight, Ekene heard a low, pained hiss. In a crevice of black rock, he found a serpent unlike any he had ever seen. It was as long as a man's arm, covered in scales that shimmered like molten gold. It was wounded, a jagged gash running across its midsection, likely from the beak of a sea eagle. Any other man would have used his machete to end the creature's life. But Ekene saw the beauty in the gold. He felt a strange, magnetic pull toward the creature. He knelt in the sand, tore a piece of his tunic, and bound the serpent's wound. He took a small fish from his meager catch and offered it to the snake. The creature didn't strike. It looked at him with eyes that were not like an animal's, but like burning emeralds. It ate the fish, and as it did, a strange warmth spread through Ekene's hands. That night, for the first time in years, Ekene dreamt of a harvest of gold. The next morning, Ekene returned to the silver sands. The serpent was waiting. It was already larger, its scales glowing with a renewed, predatory luster. Ekene fed it 2 fish this time. When he went out to sea later that day, his luck changed. His net became so heavy it nearly tipped his canoe. When he pulled it in, he didn't just find fish, he found a lost brass chest filled with old coins and jewelry from a shipwreck long forgotten. Ekene was ecstatic. He believed the serpent was a blessing, a gift from the water spirits. He built a small, hidden enclosure for the snake in the thicket behind his hut. He swore his wife, Adana, to secrecy, though she trembled every time she heard the heavy sliding sound of scales against the wooden floor of the enclosure. Ekene, this is not a natural beast, she whispered as they sat by the fire. Look at how fast it grows. Look at how its eyes follow you. It does not look at you with love, husband. It looks at you like a farmer looks at a crop that is almost ready for harvest. But Ekene would not hear it. Every day, the snake grew. And every day, Ekene's wealth doubled. He moved from a hut of thatch to a house of stone. He bought cattle, lands, and fine clothes. But the cost was rising. The serpent no longer wanted small fish. Soon, it required a whole goat every 3 days. Then, it demanded a bull. The village grew suspicious. Ekene, where does your luck come from? The elders asked during the New Yam festival. The sea is generous, but she does not give until the fisherman's back is broken from work. Your back is straight, yet your coffers are full. Ekene laughed them off. He thought he was the master of the gold. He didn't realize that he had become a prisoner to the appetite he had cultivated. The serpent, now called Auro by Ekene, had grown to the thickness of a palm tree. It no longer stayed in the enclosure. It moved through the house at night, a heavy, rhythmic drumming that shook the very foundations. One night, the air in the house turned cold. Ekene woke to find Auro coiled at the foot of his bed. The serpent's head was level with his own. The emerald eyes were no longer glowing, they were hard and demanding. The snake did not hiss, it spoke into Ekene's mind, a voice like the grinding of stones beneath the tide. I have made you a king among men, Ekene. I have filled your belly and your barns. But the blood of bulls is no longer enough to sustain the gold of my skin. I am hungry for a soul. I am hungry for the light of this house. Ekene felt a cold sweat break across his brow. I will give you more cattle. I will buy the finest sheep from the north. No, the serpent hissed. Tomorrow, the moon will be full. You will bring me the thing you love most, or I shall take everything I gave you, and your life along with it. Ekene didn't sleep. He spent the night pacing the hall. He looked at his beautiful wife, Adana, who had stood by him when he had nothing. He looked at his infant son, Chidi, sleeping peacefully in the cradle. The greed that had fueled him for months suddenly felt like ash in his mouth. He realized that the serpent hadn't been a gift, it was a loan with a murderous interest rate. He went to the oracle, Maobi, in the dark before dawn. He confessed everything. The old woman sighed, the smoke from her herb swirling around her withered face. You fed the shadow, Ekene, and now the shadow wants to be the sun. You cannot kill what you have nourished with your own ambition unless you are willing to lose everything it gave you. To break the bond, you must prove that your love is stronger than your greed. But be warned, the serpent will not play fair. It knows your heart better than you do. Ekene returned home with a heavy heart. He knew what he had to do. He went to his barns and opened the gates. He let his cattle wander into the forest. He took his chest of gold and threw them into the deep village well. He wanted to show the serpent that the gifts meant nothing. As the full moon rose over the silver sands, the serpent emerged from the shadows of the house. It was massive, its golden scales now tinged with a bloody red hue. It looked at the empty barns and the quiet house. Where is my sacrifice, Ekene? The beast roared, its voice shaking the trees. I have no sacrifice for you. Ekene stood his ground, a simple wooden staff in his hand. The gold is gone. The cattle are gone. I have returned to the man I was before I found you. You have no power here, for I no longer want what you offer. The serpent laughed, a sound like a landslide. You think you can just walk away? You think the debt is paid in metal? I do not want your gold, little man. I want your heart. In a flash of golden light, the serpent struck. But it didn't strike Ekene. It slithered with impossible speed toward the room where Adana and the child were hidden. Ekene let out a primal scream and threw himself in the serpent's path. He grabbed the creature's tail, his muscles straining as he was dragged across the stone floor. Betrayer! Ekene cried. I fed you when you were dying. I gave you a home when the eagles were tearing at your flesh. And I fed you when you were starving, the serpent countered, turning its massive head to face him. We are the same, Ekene. We both took what didn't belong to us because we were hungry. But my hunger is eternal. The snake coiled around Ekene, the pressure beginning to crack his ribs. The man could feel the life being squeezed out of him. In that moment, he saw the emerald eyes up close. He saw the reflection of his own greed in them. He realized that the only way to kill the snake was to kill the part of himself that loved the gold more than the truth. With his last bit of strength, Ekene reached into the folds of his tunic and pulled out a small, jagged piece of the black rock from the silver sands, the very place he had found the snake. He remembered the oracle's words, the earth that gives life also holds the power to take it back. He drove the stone into the spot where the eagle had once wounded the serpent, the jagged gash he had bound months ago. The serpent let out a scream that was heard in the next 3 villages. A blinding light erupted from the wound, not golden, but a sickly, pale white. The serpent began to shrink. The gold scales turned to dull grey lead, then to ash. The massive body withered like a vine in a fire. Within seconds, there was nothing left but a pile of salt and a faint smell of sulfur in the air. Ekene lay on the floor, gasping for air. He looked around. His house was no longer made of stone, it had returned to a hut of mud and thatch. His fine clothes were rags. His son's cradle was once again a simple basket. Adana ran to him, clutching the child. They were alive. They were safe. But they were poor. The villagers gathered at the doorway, looking at the ruins of Ekene's wealth. Some mocked him. Where is your gold now, fisherman? Where are your fine cattle? Ekene stood up, leaning on Adana. He looked at the pile of salt on the floor where the monster had been. I have something better than gold, he said, his voice raspy but firm. I have my soul, and I have my family. The serpent did not betray me, I betrayed myself the moment I thought a predator could be a friend. I fed a beast and expected it to have a human heart. That was my true blindness. Ekene returned to the sea the next day. He did not go to the silver sands. He went to the common waters where the honest men fished. His nets were light, and his work was hard. But every fish he caught tasted sweeter than any banquet he had eaten in his house of stone. He taught his son that some paths to wealth are paved with scales and venom. He told the story of the golden serpent to anyone who would listen, warning them that the shortcut is often the longest road to ruin. As the years passed, the legend of the blind fisherman, the man who could finally see once he lost his gold, spread far and wide. The pile of salt in his old hut remained there, never blowing away in the wind, a permanent reminder to the village of Kaba that you must be careful what you invite to your table. For if you feed a snake long enough, it will eventually realize that the hand providing the food is the most tender meat of all. Thank you for listening to this tale of the silver sands. It reminds us that gratitude should never be traded for greed, and that true prosperity cannot be kept in a cage. Have you ever nurtured something that ended up hurting you? Have you ever felt the weight of a debt that could not be paid with money? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Tell me where you are watching from, and if this story touched your heart, remember to like and subscribe to our channel for more wisdom from the elders. Until the moon rises again, keep your hands clean and your spirit free from the lure of the golden scale. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more inspiring stories. See you next time.